I talk about always learning and pushing yourself and challenging yourself, figuring out new and better ways to do things so that you can constantly be improving and learning as much as you can. But you might be wondering how you actually go about doing that. Because it's one thing to say, oh, you just need to be learning and consuming and doing all this stuff, but what does it actually mean to be doing that? Well, let me go back and give you a little bit of history about how I got to where I'm at and where I still need to go because it's a long, long, long journey. You're not just going to be successful overnight. And even if you get to a certain point, you probably still won't feel successful. You should probably, if you're doing everything, you'll probably just want to keep getting to that next level, keep going higher and higher and higher, being more and more successful, whatever that means to you. And what was most valuable for me was I got started at a really young age. I got started doing video stuff in a somewhat professional capacity around 12 years old. And that was just because I had a friend of the family and knew a guy. He was looking for people to help him out with a live camera team. I said, yeah, I'm sure I'll do it. And it was a situation where I was unpaid and he just needed someone to do it. And I was so young and eager and just thought it'd be cool to do. I said yes and gave it a shot. And I sucked. Well, I didn't suck, but I didn't know anything. I had no idea what I was doing. And it was a lot of learning and just doing it and not learning and kind of coasting and oh, it's cool, it's fun. This is what I'm going to be doing, but not really trying, not learning, not reading, not very much of anything, just kind of learning from experience, I guess. And that's helpful, but it's not the fastest way to learn, but it certainly gives you a good foundation. A little bit later in life, I finally decided that I was going to do this full time. This was going to be my career. I liked it so much that I figured I might as well just pursue it 100%. So I went to film school, dug in 100% to do that. And even then, I still kind of was just coasting and just going with the flow. I had had this experience a long time, so 6 years up to that point of doing video production, live editing, short film type stuff, just goofing around mostly, and got to film school. And everyone else was kind of just starting, is what it seemed. A lot of my classmates, that was their first thing. They just wanted to go into video or go into film, and so they went to film school. And I felt so far ahead of everyone because I already had all experience. So I just kept coasting and not really trying and not really learning much of anything because I had already kind of picked up everything I needed to know at that point in life to compete at that level. And then once I graduated, it was towards my senior year when I had to actually make my senior capstone short film. And in the process of doing that, I needed to buy some gear. And when I went down that road, it got me into the more learning and consuming aspect of education because I needed to know if I'm going to put my money into this. Because up until that point, I'd always just borrowed what other people had done. My parents bought me a few things, so it was pretty easy just to not care what I had because I had everything I needed. But this is also right around the time that the 5D Mark II was coming out, and that was a big camera. That was a big deal. So I was looking and researching, okay, what should I buy to be able to compete at that level? Because a lot of people are doing the shallow depth of field, making it look cinematic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I started looking around online. I came across the GH1 and how cheap and affordable that was, but it was still great if you hacked it. And so I went down that whole path and learning how to do all that stuff. And it was fun and it got me really into learning. So it was kind of through gear that I got into learning. But after that, I started researching, okay, well, how do you light? What should you do for lighting? And then around that time, I also started working with another guy who was certainly more advanced than me and was doing bigger stuff than I was. And I was just helping him out in a PA type capacity. And I was learning a lot from him and working with other people. And that is when I found that hunger for knowledge and figuring out how to get better and better through gear, through techniques, through just skills that you're able to develop. But even then, there were a lot of mistakes that I made, a lot of things that, in hindsight, I wish I could take back, a lot of things that I wish I had done differently. And that's what it's all about. It's about that long journey of experiencing all these different things, all these different stages, and figuring out from that. Because it's one thing to read it on a page, but when you have to go out and do it, it's a lot more challenging on you as an individual because oftentimes you're alone, you're by yourself, or it's a small crew, and everyone's looking to you to figure it out and make it right. And oftentimes that's where you fail. That's where you make those mistakes, but you learn from your mistakes. It's very rare that you do something well and come away with a lesson. You just look at it and be like, oh, that looks awesome. It could have been an accident. But if you make a mistake and you look at it critically and analyze it and say, oh, what could I have done different? That's when you can actually have those learning moments and those aha opportunities to say, next time I have a shoot like that, or next time I'm doing something like that, I'm going to do it this way. I'm not going to use that camera. I'm going to use this camera. I'm not going to use that lens. I'm going to use this lens. Or I'm going to say this and not that, or whatever it is, right? It's always different. It's always unique. Every shoot I do to this day, I'm still learning things and trying to better myself and better my gear and better my skills and my techniques and everything, right? Looking at the footage, reviewing it. What could we have done differently? Could we have done anything more? Should we have done anything less? So many things go through my mind, and you need that experience. But it's really hard if you're a little bit older, who maybe you don't have the opportunity to start when you're 12 because maybe you're 22 or 32 or 42 and you're trying to get into it. That doesn't mean it's impossible. It's going to be harder for you because you don't have the luxury of being a little kid and just not caring and just spending time kind of absorbing things as they come to you. But when you're older, you just have to put that on the fast track. And the way you do that is just constantly be working every single day. And when I mean working, I don't mean like paid work. Like, it sounds kind of counterintuitive because everyone wants to do this professionally, right? But there's so many clients out there that those mistakes that you need to make when you're first getting into it, they're not going to accept it. They're not going to want to pay you for those kind of mistakes. Oh, I forgot to hit record, or I forgot to bring cards, or I forgot to bring batteries, or I forgot a lens, or I don't know how to light this, or I don't have lights. There's so many different things that can go wrong on a production you don't want to be making those mistakes for paying clients. You don't want to do that. You want to do it for your YouTube videos or your short film that you're putting on Vimeo, or the thing that is super cheap and just low budget and you do with your friends on the weekend. Whatever it is, do the cheap stuff so you can make those mistakes, so you can corrupt the card, so you can lose the footage, so everything that can go wrong, so that later when things go wrong, they're not as bad of things to go wrong. You quickly learn how to avoid. In film school, I deleted an entire short film that we had spent weeks shooting. And in event, we made a short film about the fact that I was such an idiot that I deleted it all. And mind you, this is after I had years of experience editing. I had my disk cache, or what was it? It's your capture settings in Final Cut, whatever it was called, log and capture, right? You'd have your hard drive where all your files were stored, and that's where your footage lived. And I deleted it. Somehow, I was just a complete dummy. I deleted it, moved to the trash, and then I emptied the trash, and it was gone. And just like that, weeks worth of stuff. And then I have to go to my classmates who I'm working on this film with and say, guys, we don't have a film anymore. They thought I was joking. They thought I was like, April Fools, like, what's going on? No, I was just a complete idiot, a moron, and I deleted the entire project. And so in one night, because it was due the next day, if I'm remembering the story correctly, it was due like the next day or two. We shot that night a short film about how I was such an idiot and deleted it. And I worked all night on it, edited it up, brought it to class, and it ended up being pretty good. But you don't want to have that mistake happen on a client who's paying you money. So those are the things, and it's not going to be that mistake. Because I just told you that, you're learning, right? So you're not going to make that mistake, hopefully, fingers crossed, but you're going to make another mistake. And the more you work, the quicker you can get through those mistakes to the point where you can get to that end game where you're comfortable taking on that paid work, that clients can trust you, and then you can build that up and then build your crew up and build your gear up and go from there, right? But it's trying to compress that timeline because it just takes time. There's no quick shortcut. You can't go read a blog article or watch 10 YouTube videos and know it all. There's just too much to know, and so much comes from hands-on experience of you actually doing it. Because as much as I can make these YouTube videos, as much as I can say, it's not the same as if you go out there and you do it yourself. So if you are a little bit older, you've got to take all that time and compress it down into something that is probably going to be pretty challenging. And so that's where you have to make the decision. Okay, are you going to be committed to doing this every day or every weekend or whatever that accelerated timeline is for you? Are you going to go out and make short films, or do you just want to make one short film and you're going to put all your eggs in that basket and hope that it comes out well. Well, I wouldn't recommend that. Do a lot of short films. They don't even have to be film like. Go film a documentary. Go make a commercial. Go just get an interview. Make a testimonial. Make a product explainer video. Whatever it is, there's so many different types of it. Make YouTube videos. This is footage, right? With a camera, with audio, with all the things that can go wrong, might go wrong. So do that. Do whatever you have to do, and do it daily or as frequently as possible. And even if you're younger, you should do that too. There's so many people out there online, or motivational speaker type people, and they tell you just, whatever you're going to do it 100%, do it all the time, always be on your mind. And it is so true, because that is how you get the best experience and the best learning. And that's how you become better, quicker, faster, stronger, yada, 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 yada. If you go to the gym a few times a year, you're not going to get strong very fast. If anything, you're probably not going to get strong at all. If you go to the gym once a week, maybe you're in good shape. Maybe you go every day. Do you think that person is going to get to their results faster than the person who's only going once a month or once a week? Probably so. The same thing goes for working out your brain and learning and being educated. So YouTube videos definitely help. Blog articles definitely help. All the different resources online, they're all valuable. Consume as much of it as possible. And here's the other thing you should know. You don't just have to watch stuff that you think is cool. Like I got really into Video Copilot and watching Andrew Kramer's videos for a while, just learning After Effects. And that's kind of how I taught myself After Effects. I didn't take any classes on it in school, because the film school I went to was more focused on the filmmaking side of things, or the philosophy of filmmaking, not actually making. And the After Effects side, I saw a couple friends who went to a different school. They were getting into that, and I wanted to get into it. So I found Video Copilot, and I watched all that stuff. But at the same time, I also went out of my way to look at how other people were doing it. And some people are terrible, right? Like, you might watch some of my videos and say, oh, that guy's an idiot. I would never do it that way. That's okay. That's learning. That's, again, maybe you're learning from my mistakes. Or maybe you're looking and seeing what I'm doing and you're saying, oh, that actually looks cool. I didn't know you could do that. And you can learn that way. It's both sides. You don't just have to find somebody who you agree with 100% or you feel like is an expert. You could find somebody who maybe doesn't know everything, or doesn't know as much as you, and still learn from them, because it can just reinforce not doing some of those bad tendencies. And that can help you find your place and your fit and your style. So main point of this is do as much as you can as fast as possible and be committed to it. And if it feels like work, it may not be the career for you. It doesn't take me a whole lot to make YouTube videos about this stuff, or to constantly be researching what cool stuff is coming out at NAB, or what Kessler's doing, or what Red's doing, or what the GH5 is going to be. Like, all those things, like, I love it so much that it's easy for me to consume that type of content and be looking for how to light, how to capture better sound, how to do audio scoring and audio polishing, like, how to do 3D, how to do After Effects. These are all things that I think are fun, oddly enough. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but it's actually helped my career. So, hey, that's good. So if you can find a passion for it, and maybe it's in a specific area, maybe it's audio, you really think that's interesting, or you really think 3D is interesting, find something that you like to learn about and learn as much as you can about it. Because at a certain point, you'll probably feel like you've maxed out that information well, right? You get to a point where you're just, you know everything there is to know about 3D modeling. And at that point, maybe you've built up that desire for learning and knowledge so much that you're now willing to jump to camera operating, or directing, or producing, or set design, or wardrobe, or makeup, or whatever it is. There's so many different components that you can always be looking up new and interesting and unique things, because once you get to the top of that information well in one area, there are so many other more wells that you can go tap and learn, and they kind of all complement one another. The more you learn over here, it can help you over here with this other thing. And there have been so many projects where I've found a new or better way to do that just by my casual looking around for information and knowledge. And I find something and I'm like, that will work perfect in this actual project. So it's not just like to better yourself, it can actually have an impact on your projects. But the hardest part is just doing it daily, or as frequently as possible, because you'll have to take breaks. You have to. You can't just constantly be consumed. If you do it too fast and too much, you'll burn yourself out. So that's the kind of flip side of all this. Don't take it to the extreme where you do it really, really well for like 3 weeks, like you do that crash diet, and then you just fall off the train because you can't keep it up. So find something that matches your pace. I really recommend, like YouTube especially, is one of the best places to find new and interesting ways of doing things. There's a bunch of different content creators out there. And what I do, just subscribe to the people you find interesting. And maybe they're better, maybe they're worse. Like I said, you can learn from both, but subscribe to them and then just check your feed once a day. Usually I do it at night. Just check my feed and see kind of what came out that day. And I don't watch everything, but sometimes something will grab my attention, like, oh, I want to learn about that camera, or oh, I've never seen lighting done that way. Let me check out that video. And that is so helpful because it's, maybe 20 minutes a day. You can kind of do that at night. I usually do it later in the evening and just kind of watch YouTube videos and better myself that way. But whatever works for you in your schedule is what you want to do, because if you can't make it fit, it's going to be hard if you try and force it to fit in your life, and that's not going to work. But you can also do the same thing. Maybe you don't like watching videos, although I'd be pretty surprised if you made it to this point of this video if you don't like watching videos. But you could do blog articles, podcasts. You could do something like that, maybe on your commute to work. There's so many different times in the day where you have a little bit of downtime, or time where you could rather than just being entertained and watching a cat video or some stupid video on YouTube, you could take that time and put it towards learning and finding out something new and interesting that actually can help you if you're trying to grow your career in that way. Same thing for like TV. How often are people just watching TV kind of zoning out? And yeah, you can watch TV and kind of critique the lighting or critique the acting, but it takes a very active viewer to do that. So I find that that's not very helpful for me, but it could be for you. Or, you're driving to work and maybe you're just listening to music. Maybe you flip on a podcast. There's so much content out there. Find what it is that works for you and then just stick to it and try and make it a habit. Just try and fit it in your schedule somewhere where it's minimal, but something that you can do every day. So you can always be learning, always be educating, because at the end of the day, that's what's most important, is just constantly getting better and improving your work, and then in effect improving other people's work. Because if they see your work, then other people can learn too. And that's actually really good, because I see enough bad videos out there. I see enough people shooting poorly, and not just like subjectively. I'm saying objectively, they're just bad. They need a little bit learning. You should, if you see bad videos, find out who shot them, send them to my YouTube videos so they can learn a little bit, because they definitely need it. But there's a lot of good videos out there too. So it's a kind of a mixed bag, but hopefully you found that helpful. And like I said, if you know someone who's just a terrible shooter, send them to this video, because they'll get to this point in the video and they'll get a kick out of it. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they won't pick up on the joke. But in any case, that's all I got to say on that. I'll see you next time.